Okay, hello. In this video, we'll look at lighthouses, in specific granite lighthouses and those in UK Ireland. So here we have Eddystone Lighthouse. We have the current one, and we see this a remaining piece of what's called Smeaton's Tower. Okay, now Smeaton's lighthouse constructed 1756 to 1759. Diamond technology was not available, advanced CNC milling technology was not available. This lighthouse was dismantled and rebuilt, not because it was failing, but because the rocks underneath were failing. Now, it was replaced with what's called Douglas's Tower or Douglas's Lighthouse, 1878 to 1881 construction. Again, long predating laser advanced precision machining CNC tools. So obviously these are an inheritance of the lost Atlantean civilization, obviously, because people weren't available, couldn't do these type of things. Now, here we see a picture of high tide and low tide. So the bottom right, you can see dismantled Smeaton's Tower and the Douglas Tower. So so they had to wait until low tide was going. So it's unless you're looking in Antarctic islands or something, you'd be really struggling to find a more harsh, difficult condition to work. And just a reminder, all of these lighthouses are built of granite. Here's a view as a video. I'll try to remember to put the link in the description. So we're looking from Douglas's Tower down to the remains of Smeaton's Tower, and you can see the older photo, the black and white sepia. The waves are so strong, so crazy strong are the natural forces putting pressure on these towers that it's broken off these granite blocks. Just incredible forces in there. You can see some of those are starting to be pried loose, but the rest of them facing away from the direction of the waves are more intact. Tremendous, awesome forces going on. Now, how strong? The waves that are hitting these lighthouses have, each wave has the equivalent of a very, very strong earthquake. So absolutely massive forces being implied. Now you can also apply. Now also you can see the holes drilled in there. So it's dovetailed, interlocking granite blocks. You can even notice the shape of the tower. It's the design was based on an oak branch, so that the forces of the waves would be directed up and then out from the tower itself. And the holes were for granite blocks, but marble dowels to better hold each layer together. This was Smeaton's Tower, and then soon after, large amounts of these types of lighthouses were built just around the island and the UK there. Now we can see on the floor there's like a plan of one of the layers. So not each layer was the same. So at the base it changed, and as it moved up, but you get an idea of the dovetailed polygonal blocks and also the larger dowels in there. But the key one to focus on is the central one, because that has 20 sides in there. Very, very complex dovetailed fitting of granite blocks done by hand. And we'll address, I've done videos before with people. You don't need steel. People with flint tools, stone pounders have done experiments, replicas on these things. Now, the lost high technology community will very strongly go out of their way to hide this information and then say, well, it doesn't exist and they haven't done this. Well, they have, too bad, but, all right. So, as an example, this is in France. Now, just as a good shot because it gives you an idea of the forces of the waves that are coming in there. Each wave has the power of a strong earthquake. Each storm will hit this lighthouse with dozens, if not hundreds of waves year after year after year. Absolutely awesome engineering long before modern machinery, modern materials. We're still talking the the beginnings of the Industrial Revolution, where there was no, as we call precision, modern machinery. It just didn't exist in that time. Here are some diagrams. So you can see on the left-hand side, on the bottom right corner, the at Eddystone, the Smeaton Tower, how the stone was cut, and then blocks, courses of stone was built up to create the base, a solid base of granite, of very complex interlocking stones. And it wasn't, they're also circular. Now the imagery, because of the way it was digitized, the folds in the page sort of distorted a bit, but it was very, very cleverly designed. Here's some other examples of how you move up through the layers. It was not just the same each layer up, depending the lower portions to the higher ones actually changed the design. And there you get an idea of how the lighthouse was designed to be like an oak trunk or an oak branch, and that to drive the foot to limit the forces being applied by those absolutely massive waves and winds that are, again, year after year after year. It's polygonal masonry, layers upon layers. So it's now Sacsayhuaman, that's limestone. It's not andesite. It's not igneous rock. It is limestone with copper tools, with stone tools. Very, very, very easy to work in that sense. Now you do have those Incan polygonal walls, which are made out of andesite or granite. But again, count the numbers of the stones, the size of the stones, and compare them to lighthouses such as these. And well, it's now considering also the number of these of these type of lighthouses. So we go back to Eddystone. So Smeaton's lighthouse dismantled because the rock it was built on was failing, not because of the lighthouse itself. Douglas's lighthouse, that introduced a more complex form of dovetailing, of interlocking blocks in Smeaton's tower. Another example is Bell Rock, which is up on the eastern Scottish coast, and again you can see that at low tide, same sort of thing. They had to go in at low tide and do the work. So high tide versus low tide. So again, absolutely, you're really stretching it to try and find more difficult construction techniques. Now there's some of the illustrations again of the intricate dovetail pattern, course upon course, different patterns on different levels. Also the holes for the dowels and these larger plugs that were in there to reinforce each layer. And we'll get to more complex stuff because we'll come to that in a moment. We'll show you. So there's just like a model showing, just the extreme difficulty of each position. And again, so if you want to go Cusco and Machu Picchu and look at those interlocking stones, well, compare the size and the number in there. This is polygonal masonry, but anyway. Wolf Rock is another excellent example. 1864 to 1869 was the construction. You can see the diagram there of the dovetailing. Keep this in mind because it's a bit okay. So unlike Smeaton's tower, which was layer upon layer with dowels and plugs to interlock these, this had the same principle, but it was also interlocking above and below, dovetail interlocking. So let's now, for instance, you see there in the red, it's not just straight up and down, it's dovetailed blocks that are fitted on top of each other in a circular pattern as well. So you couldn't sort of start at one side and then when you get to the other one, make the final stone fit. Each stone had to be precisely fitted, created, and then laid. Extraordinary level of workmanship. Fastnet Lighthouse in Ireland, 1897 to 1904, the last masonry block was laid. And at the lookout there, for instance, there at the base, that's the type of interlocking block that was placed in there, and again, to create a circle. Now, the reason, not just, it's amazing on its own, this type of stuff, but I want to bring up, so here's just some of the lighthouses, and there are others around the world. I'll put the link. There was a great series on lighthouses, especially looking at Fastnet, Eddystone, and Bell Rock, and the type of work. So before CNC machines, before diamond technology, and I'll bring that up because amongst lost tide technologists, now for instance, the Serapeum of Saqqara now, but they had steel. Yes, they did, and there's some cool bits from those documentaries, and then I'll show you a comparison to this. But big deal. They say they had steel. Well, you can use flint. Steel is not a magical precision tool. It's only as good as the worker that's applied, and so skilled workers who shift from steel to flint and stone pounding tools do great work. And even traditional workers with steel, such as you'll see in India, are working on granite. It's a very, very slow process in that way. That's just the nature of the beast is stoneworking. Now, so this is what lost ancient high technologists actually say about current technical capability. So even with steel, all right, so Christopher Dunn, he started this meme. Now, for instance, when they talk about the Serapeum Saqqara, they say that this is beyond our modern capabilities to make granite boxes, friggin' granite boxes, like in that, I'll play the clip of that. Granite workers cannot understand how they make, like, how did they make these? It's a freaking granite box, all right. So Christopher Dunn, these boxes, and you'll see repeated. I'll play a clip from one of the more recent entries into the Lost High Technology tour guide industry, and that these boxes had to be made in 5 pieces or 6, including the lid, and that they had to be bolted together on site. Now, where does this come from? It comes from Christopher Dunn, who is a master at the cherry picking method. And so what Christopher Dunn has, and because he's gets referred as an engineer, what you see is that people quote him because it has, they cite his information because he has this air of respectability. But now, for instance, Christopher Dunn wrote a letter to Mr. E. Leifer from the Truestone Corporation on the technical feasibility of creating several artifacts, including the granite box in the Serapeum at Saqqara. Mr. Leifer, or Life, I'm not sure pronunciation, last comments were as follows: "My company did not have the equipment or capabilities to produce the boxes in that manner. My company would create the boxes in 5 pieces, ship them to the customer, and bolt them together on site." Now, this is what he spreads. He's still spreading it now, and all of the lost ancient high technology clones are repeating this, charging people large amounts of money. Look at this, it's a granite box. Okay, now, could these granite boxes be manufactured with modern technology? Absolutely. Scientists Against Smith have just recently, on their Russian language channel, have recently released a video looking at the Serapeum Saqqara, including some new accurate measurements, and also they spoke to a granite company and asked them, can you make these? Of course they can. It's granite box. All right, now, firstly, the Serapeum boxes are not precise. All the measurements that have been taken are very, very clear. They're not flat, they're not precise, they're not special in any way. Trihedral inner corners, big deal. Look at those lighthouses, and it's a corner. So what? Experiments using flint tools have made a trihedral inner corners the same, matching the Serapeum. So it absolutely can be done. How do you hollow it out? Well, okay, you're drilling it out. I'm waiting on the Scientists Against Smith to release their Serapeum English language version and go through that. There is, using primitive tools, there is nothing, not a thing that cannot be done in there, and done in a timely fashion. So you'll often hear, oh yeah, okay, but you can grind away, but it'll take 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years or ridiculous numbers. It'll take this long to drill it out, and no, it's not feasible. Absolute rubbish. Repeated, independent, multiple experiments just absolutely blow that out of the water. It is just a con. All right, so, but back to Christopher Dunn. He got a letter from Truestone Corporation about how to make a giant granite box. Truestone Corporation replied, "My company did not have the capability, equipment to produce the boxes of in this manner. We would have to create the boxes in 5 pieces, ship them to the customer, and bolt them together on site." Now, for instance, you can see on the bottom left, the exterior of all of the Serapeum boxes are bowed, bent. The insides are nice, but even the insides are not precision 90 degrees, precision flatness, and so forth. So, who is a Truestone Corporation? Truestone Corporation make precision metrological granite items such as surface plates and squares and so forth. These are the type of things that sit on the desk. Truestone Corporation do not make large granite monuments or sculptures or anything along that way. So now Christopher Dunn knows well what Truestone does, because here's him featured in Ancient Aliens, and you notice in the background there's a granite surface plate, and it seems that even the trolley, the bench, matches that of Truestone Corporation. He knows full well what they do, and well, that's why he didn't speak to a stonemason monument maker, because he gets, it sounds official. Like, hey, now why didn't he? Why ask a manufacturer of precision metrological tools made from granite? Why not go to a stonemason whose career is built on things, large and small, making monuments? Now, of course, they're a sarcophagi, and like going back, it's just ridiculous when they, you can't do the inner corners, you can't do this, you can't do that, it would take too long, you need precision milling machine. Absolute rubbish, just nonsense, like so untrue, it's ridiculous. So he went to Truestone. He knew what he was doing, like his letter from some quarries and from Mike Leckie. Didn't speak to people he should be speaking to. He cherry picked those who gives him what he wants to say, and then he waves, I've got a letter from my mum, look at my letter, blah, blah, blah. It's all rubbish. All right, so what is true? So he went to Company A, who worked with precision electronics that fit on the bench, and asked, can I purchase high voltage power lines? Well, thank you for your inquiry, but we don't make these. Well, you're in the electrical trade, but power lines. So rather than, very cherry picked. So I just wanted to show that as well, because I'm waiting on the release of the English language version from Scientists Against Smith, which is just, it's the nail in the coffin when it comes to the Cerepium and this argument of precision angles and blah, blah, blah. It is all rubbish. They all have to frame it, whether it's ancient aliens, lost ancient high technologists, they always frame things in a certain way, cherry pick information, and they never show you that which is difficult to their narrative. And again, they just fib. That's what they do now, or they're really, really ignorant on what they base their sort of stuff on. So we'll show some more clips, and I'll show you some examples more in a separate video in regards to that. But when it comes to ancient lost high technology and people talking, you need precision advanced laser machines, and it's got to be, you can't do this. If you want to say in the comments, well, I'm misrepresenting what they say, I've watched them, and you haven't watched them and heard what they say, because they say those things in there. I have noticed Brian Foster and some of these other channels have now, thinking that no one's looking, they've moved away. And before they used to say it's impossible, but now they've moved away to it's not feasible, or it's inefficient, or the experiments haven't been done on a large scale. So they at least didn't acknowledge that in the past. They just sort of moved on as if this didn't happen. But the internet's got a long memory. So if you want to see amazing polygonal work done by hand without advanced measuring devices and machines, look no further than these type of lighthouses. Really, it's on a whole other level in terms of the the complexity of the shapes and so forth, and the scale. They've done this, how many thousands and thousands and thousands of blocks across these, just around the UK and Ireland, in these type of granite constructions as well. Granite did not start being when advanced diamond technology machine coming, right, or CNC machine. No, they've been doing it constantly, and that's one of the things that's really dirty about this, because not only are they trying to steal the works of ancient peoples and primitive loincloth wearers, they're also stealing the work of our great and great great grandparents and grandfathers and of course all the great the grandmothers as well, who were involved in the process of doing this type of work as well. So that's one of the really dirty things about this lost high technology stuff. It's not just they like to dabble around in the ancient past, but at the same time they're stealing your heritage. Your birthright is being stolen by these crooks. So just one example. I made a terrible. This is obviously inherited from the lost civilization. Obviously. So because people can't do this type. They couldn't do. But you need advanced machining to do this type. It's obviously inherited, this is all the history and all. This is all lies. It's all the historians and academics. They're gonna lose their power. There's this giant, all powerful mafia that are trying to, they want the next comet to come or something. I don't know. Anyway, just like one example. There's so much ashlar masonry, granite cathedrals, public buildings. Off the top of my head, the state capitol building in Texas and the red granite there as well. And again, all predating any sort of recent advanced machinery, CNC machines and all that type of stuff as well. So that also will relate to stones such as these. Now, again, you always say, well, how did they fit 14-sided or 16-sided together? Well, how did they do not just one or two, so not just going up to these polygonal walls and say, oh, look at that one, or look, this one stone. Well, okay, these hundreds, thousands, the Douglas Tower, or was it Fastnet, has over 2,000 such polygonal, complex, interlocking, dovetailed granite blocks put together in such a way that they withstand crazy forces. Not only the occasional earthquake that comes along in that part of the world, it's not a high earthquake area, but being smashed by waves that have the equivalent forces of strong earthquake. One wave after another, year after year after year. So hats off to the masons, stonework, the engineers of the age who did this amazing stuff, working in extraordinary difficult conditions. And why lost high ancient technology? Well, this is why, because if they were to actually look into recent examples, some of them only 1 or 2 generations from us, all of this stuff would just be blown out of the water. And again, of course, they need to cherry pick, and it is cherry picking. It's part of a pattern of Christopher Dunn. He's the god for, so all of the lost ancient high technology channels, it's like the source of the river comes back to Christopher Dunn. And apart from his very bad cherry picking in that sense, also I'll re-examine it as well. Now, for instance, some of the alleged experiments that he did, the polite way would be terrible, horrifically terrible experiments. And if you weren't so charitable, you'd say that he fudged his results and then again misrepresented. All right, so there you go. Bunch of links in the description if you want to look around. We fucking granited, and indeed they did, and they did it on a level at least equal to anything that's done in the past. And if your argument is, well, they had steel, you don't need steel. We'll go into that more as well. Have a good one.